I just want to remind people that we're living in an Orwellian era of censorship, and the leading news publisher, journalist, Julian Assange, is still being persecuted and prosecuted. The Biden administration plans to continue to seek extradition of WikiLeaks' Assange. That's what they're doing. Caitlin Johnston says if journalists are not speaking out for Assange's freedom right now, they're telling you his persecution poses no threat to them. They're telling you that they will side with power every time. They're telling you that they are propagandists. And I want to show a journalist. Here's what is many people consider to be the #1 online progressive news show in America. And here they are smearing Julian Assange as saying he's picked a side with Donald Trump, that he's a Trumper. So I don't know what kind of Trump derangement syndrome this is, but this is disgusting, and I just wanted to show it to everybody to show you what kind of stuff that Julian Assange is up against. Not only is he fighting the world's most powerful government, the world's biggest warmongering, most massacring, most murderous government for exposing their murderous war crimes, but now he's got independent journalists, well, not, this is actually a corporate journalist. He's got people pretending to be progressives smearing him like this.
Well, obviously it's hard to tell who's telling the truth here, but lately I have to confess that WikiLeaks has not had an astounding record. You know, the way that Assange seems to be backing Donald Trump over and over and over again, it makes me very seriously question Assange's efforts to actually be a journalist and not to be a partisan. And I get it. I get why he hates the Democrats. They're trying to put him in prison, okay?
Right. But
at the same time,
so are Republicans. Let's be clear about that.
And now the Republicans are too, and they have been in the past. But it seems like Assange has picked a side. And look, it makes me question his reporting. And so that's the situation we're in now. So now is he just leaking things that he gets, and no matter what, in which case I would respect that, or is he selectively leaking based on his political motives? Now that suspicion is out there and it's real and it's possible, well, now I'm concerned that it can't be trusted.
Wow, that is heavy-duty garbage coming from pretend people on the left or pretend left people. And so right now I want to bring on our guests today. I mean, that's someone saying that Julian Assange, while he's being persecuted and prosecuted and trying to be killed by Donald Trump, that guy was saying he's working with Donald Trump. Do you see how crazy and deranged people are? And that's supposed to be a newsman? Slandering another journalist? That's what Julian Assange is up against. That's what he's up against, that kind of garbage. That guy's funded by DNC donors. He's funded by right-wingers, Buddy Roemer, and he guys pretends to be on the left, and he smears our most important journalist of a generation, who's right now, they're trying to kill him for his journalism. I just want to say this. Until Julian Assange is free, none of us are free. The fight for Julian Assange's freedom is the fight for our freedom. The freedom to expose the lies of government, the freedom to expose war crimes, and the freedom to tell the truth. Orwell has been credited as having said journalism is printing something that power doesn't want printed, and everything else is public relations. Well, every day Julian Assange is in prison. That is a mockery of our society's supposed commitment to freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And now let me welcome our guest today, the father and brother of one of the most important figures of modern journalism. They are on tour right now in the United States, calling on the U.S. government to stop its persecution of Julian Assange. They will be in Los Angeles this Sunday, June 27th, at the Oakwood Center. We're pleased to have with us Gabriel Shipton, brother of Julian Assange, and John Shipton, father of Julian Assange. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jimmy.
So tell me, what is the point of your tour, and what have you guys learned on it?
We're here just really preparing the ground for these charges to be, discontinued against Julian. We've across the country, we've learned there's so much support in America from normal Americans for Julian Assange. We've moved all the way up the East Coast from Miami through DC, Washington, Philadelphia, Columbus, Chicago, and every place we go, there's more and more people coming out who understand that this prosecution of a publisher is a danger to their First Amendment rights. So that's what we've learned. We've just learned that there are so many people here that really care about this case and care about their First Amendment rights.
And so how are people in, this might sound funny, how are people in Australia responding to this? Because they would seem to have an interest in one of their countrymen exposing war criminals and then being prosecuted with the blessing of the Australian government. Am I correct?
The Australian government seems to acquiesce to what seems to acquiesce to the persecution of Julian. However, the people and the Parliament of Australia don't. There's now about 26 parliamentarians in the official Assange group in the Australian Parliament, out of a total of 220 parliamentarians. The opposition, which is half of the parliament, supports Julian. The opposition leader supports Julian, and the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia is in the Assange group along with 26 others. So the parliamentarians have their ear to the ground and listen to their constituents, otherwise they lose their jobs. Consequently, they bring into Parliament the concerns of the constituencies that Julian Assange is being unfairly treated by the United States Department of Justice, and they wish that the oppression of Julian be alleviated. So that's the circumstances in the people. The circumstances in the government is that they have a state-to-state relationship with the United States, which they put before the health and well-being of Julian Assange currently. That will change.
So what kind of support have you gotten inside the United States government? Have you gotten any Congress people or any elected officials to join you?
No, we don't, in the United States, we don't approach elected officials. We just approach supporters and the general public and news organizations. Approaching congressmen here would be, I feel, counterproductive, as they have to take a position, and once taking a position on a matter, it becomes quite difficult to change their minds as the support for Julian manifests itself. They become resistant, and it's embarrassing. So we mostly deal with the staff of congressmen and ordinary people who support Julian, and news organizations like yours. We find that very productive.
What can you tell me? What are some of the news organizations that have been reached out to you or have been supporting Julian Assange?
Well, since we've arrived, we've done a segment on Democracy Now. We've also appeared on Tucker Carlson's show. So there's a lot of support from the left and from the sort of libertarian right. There's been, I think, almost 30 articles now from independent media, but also the New York Times was talking about Julian's case a couple of weeks ago in the context of Merrick Garland's meeting about the Trump-era subpoenas on journalists. So I think there is a sort of upwelling of support, and it's really, it's the independent media really leading the way, and the legacy media is sort of getting it and starting to follow.
So, go ahead.
We had an event in New York City attended by Roger Waters, and wherein a small video of his comments had 1 million hits. So that's pretty substantial. Julian's matter is the First Amendment. So it's an overarching umbrella which gathers underneath it supporters from left, right, and centre. This is their concern, the First Amendment and its destruction and oppression by the actions of the Department of Justice in the pursuit of publisher and journalist Julian Assange.
So I saw that videotape of Roger Waters, and that was at the event. He was there. I think Chris Hedges was there, Randy Credico. There was a lot of, good people there standing up for Julian Assange, and he gave a speech and about how he's not going to let his music and his art be tarnished by Facebook for censorship. They wanted to use his song that he wrote, and they wanted to use it to entice more people to use their social app. And he said, basically, no, thank you, because I'm not going to make your platform more popular so you can then censor people. So that's very much in the spirit of Julian Assange, anti-censorship. So that went viral, and he was trending. And by the way, this guy who I showed you smearing Julian Assange mocked Roger Waters and said that Roger Waters was some random Pink Floyd guy from 80 years ago, which is like one of the dumbest things I've ever. That's like saying, Mick Jagger is some random Rolling Stones guy. that Paul McCartney, that random Beatle. It doesn't. It's just. And then the next day, the guy is so relevant. He trended all day because he's such a political activist. So again, this guy, people like that are smearing Julian Assange left and right, and they're smearing anybody who stands up for Julian Assange, like Roger Waters was doing. And so that's what we're fighting against. And so
Roger's comment cracked an article in Newsweek, which the first part of the article concerned itself with Roger's comment, and the the latter part of the article concerned itself with Julian Assange and journalism and the First Amendment. So that's pretty important.
Yes.
A bit better than Cenk Uygur.
Jesus Christ. So I find it. Do you find it interesting that the lefty, what's considered corporate lefty media like CNN and MSNBC, they haven't opened the door to you to come on and talk about it, but a place like Fox News has? Isn't that kind of ironic to you?
Well, I think we've got a booking on MSNBC next week. So
no kidding! What show?
Yeah,
That's amazing. What show?
You'll have to tune in next week and find out. But we're making progress. They're not going to just have us on straight away. But I think with all this, the independent media and Fox and Democracy Now, it's all just building. We're just building up from the ground up, really. And it's the support of the people behind us who are making that possible.
Now go ahead.
If I could add to it, Jimmy, we've only been here a couple of weeks, and we've sort of covered most of the alternative media that's thoughtful and that's concerned with the quality of the United States, and also most of the important mass media that's concerned with the quality and qualities and perceptions of the United States. So that's really important after a couple of weeks' work.
Yes, it's been great to see. It's been great to see the coverage you're getting, and of course we boosted it every chance we get. And can you just bring us up to date on, so the people who aren't familiar what Julian's case, where it stands right now? Can you bring us up to date?
Yeah, Julian won. Julian won his extradition case at the beginning of January. The U.S. DOJ immediately appealed. He won on the basis that the judge said that being extradited to the U.S. was, basically a sentence to death, tantamount to a death sentence. The U.S. DOJ appealed immediately, and then a few days later, Julian's bail application was rejected, and he's been. This is his third year coming up in the maximum security prison at Belmarsh, and 6 months since he's won his extradition case. The High Court will decide whether to hear an appeal or not, and we're just sort of waiting for that to happen now. They have all the arguments, and it's just sort of it's this not knowing, they sort of manipulate the dates and we thought we were going to hear at the beginning of June, but then that didn't happen. And so really, Julian's been kept in this sort of limbo now where it's been 6 months since he's won his extradition case and he still doesn't know whether or when there will be an appeal. So it's just this sort of abuse of, punishment by process that's been happening in Julian's case for the last 12 years.
I could add, Jimmy, that the appeal of the United States is heard before one High Court judge, and that judge decides whether an appeal can go ahead. If an appeal does go ahead, that'll be before the High Court of the United Kingdom. After that, if there's further appeals, they'll be heard before the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom. If it continues after that, it'll go to the European Court of Human Rights. Each step of the way exposes in detail the prejudicial acts in this persecution by the Department of Justice, the Crown Prosecuting Service, and the Swedish Prosecuting Authority, to the extent that AC Global is also involved. They're a security contractor who is supposed to secure the Ecuadorian embassy, but were suborned and bribed by the CIA to spy on Julian. So every court case exposes more and more of the, illegal and unlawful behaviour. I spoke to Dan Ellsberg yesterday, and he said the reason why his case was abandoned is the tainted evidence obtained illegally by other actors in his case. Tainted evidence. He asked, why is it that this case continues when the evidence against Julian is equally tainted by illegal collection? That's the question we ask.
Well, so I just want to remind people what this prosecution is about, or this persecution is about, of Julian Assange. People, I think, oftentimes mistake that. They think it was for the hacking of the DNC server and the revealing of Hillary Clinton's emails and all that. That's not what this is about. They are doing this because Julian Assange, through Chelsea Manning, or with the help of Chelsea Manning, revealed United States war crimes in Iraq. So that's what this is really about. This is about Julian Assange revealing war crimes. And it's not about him doing anything illegal. They're trying to pretend he did, but he didn't. What he was doing was journalism, just like what Daniel Ellsberg did with the Pentagon Papers, which helped us end the Vietnam War. He's doing real journalism, and he's exposing criminality inside the United States government's war machine. And, of course, you can't have that, right? We have $1 trillion a year war machine, and if somebody gets in the way of that, they're going to lock him up immediately. They're going to smear him as some kind of a sexual predator, and then they're going to make him out to be a traitor to a country he's not a member of, which is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. So, go ahead.
Could I add to your comment this in the positive, that since the release of the Iraq war logs, the Afghan war files, the Guantanamo Bay war files, and on the cables, they were all released about 10 years ago or a little more. The consequence of that in a nation as large and rich as the United States, the consequence of that is it's very slow to turn around such a big nation. But over the 10 years, those revelations have been enculturated and resulted in the withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan, Iraq, and the proposed closure of Guantanamo Bay. This is a magnificent thing and ought to be, in my view, held proudly by those that in the United States that took these revelations seriously and insisted that their government change direction.
So, yeah, again, tip of the hat, of course, to WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, for opening everyone's eyes up to what was happening. And so it did actually change public opinion about our war machine. And so now they have to use more and more oppressive ways. They have to censor people now because of that, because people are aware of, through WikiLeaks, what's been going on, what's happening, and what our governments have been doing in our name. And so now they're using more crude forms of censorship and control. And one of the more crudest is the persecution right out in public, which is, again, just the It's the persecution of journalism, and that the fact that every journalist in America isn't, they'll stand up when Trump insults Jim Acosta like it's a big deal. But this actually is the biggest deal ever in journalism that they should be standing up for, and they just aren't doing it loud enough. I've seen Chris Hayes give lip service to Julian Assange, which was nice, right? I've seen him in little clips, but we'll see. They're going on MSNBC next week, and I'm big. I have my fingers crossed that goes well. So, what else? What else would you like to tell everybody today? What have I left out?
Well, just one really important thing is that if this goes ahead, if this extradition and persecution of Julian Assange goes ahead under the auspices of the Espionage Act of 1917, if that goes ahead, then every news outlet, publisher, publication and journalist can face the same prosecution for any comment whatsoever that the United States Department of Justice doesn't really like, or Washington finds obnoxious or not to its taste. It doesn't have to be anything other than to Washington's distaste that a journalist will find themselves threatened with 175 years jail, and a publisher threatened with bankruptcy, and a publication threatened with, well, bankruptcy equally.
Okay. I really appreciate you coming on and making time, and I want to just let everybody know that this Sunday, right, it's Sunday the 27th here in Los Angeles at the Oakwood Recreation Center in Venice, California. That's a 6 p.m. start. I think it's being hosted by Code Pink. So everybody check that out this Sunday, the 27th, 6 p.m. At Oakwood Recreation Center in Venice, California. Gabriel Shipton, John Shipton, the brother and father of Julian Assange, thank you so much for coming, and thanks to you for spreading the word, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Been a pleasure.
Okay.
Thanks.
Julian Assange's brother and father had gone on Tucker Carlson, but of course they haven't gone on Fredo Cuomo's show. They haven't been on MSNBC yet, or haven't been on ABC, but where have they been, right? They certainly haven't been on the Young Turks, that's for sure. But they have been on Tucker Carlson. Isn't that interesting? Yes. Tucker Carlson, a bigger fighter for freedom of speech, the First Amendment, and journalism than all of MSNBC and CNN. Isn't that interesting? And so I just wanted to show you why I go on Tucker Carlson to talk to half the country. I think that's pretty important, which is why Bernie Sanders went on Fox News, which is why Barack Obama went on Fox News, which is why Hillary Clinton went on Fox News, and which is why Cornel West went on Tucker Carlson. Why? Because you get to talk to half the country, and that's really important. And you can change people's minds with your message. That used to be the gold standard for lefties in America, that you reached people with your message. And so that's what I did. And as long as we're talking about Julian Assange, I wanted to play this clip because Julian Assange was and father, where they were invited on Tucker Carlson, but not invited on Rachel Maddow. And here's why. The thumb back in the eye of these people is to pardon Julian Assange. If he knows what's good for freedom of speech and freedom of the press, he should take this moment and pardon Julian Assange.
I didn't used to think that, and I totally agree with it, partly because you convinced me through the force of your argument. I think that's absolutely right.
So I didn't want to pat myself on the back too hard when Julian Assange's father was here, so I didn't play it in front of him. But I just want to let you people know that it's important to go on shows like that. And shame on Rachel Maddow, fake tough guy Lawrence O'Donnell, all the other pukes over at MSNBC and everybody at CNN who doesn't support Julian Assange and journalism and freedom of speech. Hey, everybody, this is the part where I tell you where all our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then this is why I tell you to join our premium program and get extra content, but nobody's got a fucking job. So just enjoy the video.